Force yourself to organize your life, or everything will fall apart. Hey guys, tonight we dive into something that might sting a little, because it's the kind of truth you usually avoid until everything starts slipping. Your life won't fix itself. Picture this. Your room is a mess, your deadlines are slipping, your sleep is trash, and every time you sit down to get it together, another scroll session swallows your focus. The air feels heavier, and you can't tell if it's stress or just the weight of everything you've left undone. That chaos isn't a fluke, it's a signal. Now you probably won't survive this, not if you keep waiting for motivation, rescue, or a magical turning point to appear. Because no one is coming. Not your parents, not your partner, not a future version of yourself with more energy, more money, or more time. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through your day, hoping things will fall into place, but deep down, you already know they won't. Not unless you step up. That creeping anxiety, that feeling of losing grip, it's not weakness. It's what happens when you stop holding the reins. You let the days drift, skip the workout, hit snooze again, ignore the pile of things you meant to do. At first, it's just one task, then one missed week. Then suddenly you're drowning in a life you didn't choose, just tolerated into existence. There comes a moment where the silence becomes deafening. You look around and realize no one's coming. The mess is yours, the fix is yours. That realization, painful as it is the most liberating truth you'll ever hear. Because if it's your responsibility, it's also your power. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius didn't sit on a throne blaming others. He wrote about inner mastery. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not just wisdom. It's a demand. Call to wake up, to own your life, not by force but by intention. You might tell yourself it'll get better next month after the holiday once you switch jobs. But life doesn't respond to delays. It responds to direction. And the longer you wait for someone to fix what you avoid, the deeper the roots of your avoidance grow. That's how survival begins to masquerade as stability. But survival is frantic. It's reactive. You put out fires, but your house is still burning. Stability? That's structure. That's sweeping out the ashes, laying new brick, setting boundaries, and lighting candles instead of fires. That's choosing to rebuild. Imagine this. You walk into a room where the dishes are done, the bed is made, your calendar is clear, your mind is focused. You breathe deeper. That's not just cleanliness. That's clarity. That's order. And it doesn't come from wishing. It comes from waking up. What does that look like? Brutal honesty. Standing in front of the mirror and asking, where have I let things go? Is it your health, your sleep, your emotional boundaries, your financial mess? Pick one, just one, and start there. No dramatic overhaul, just presence, awareness, action. Discipline isn't about being in the mood. It's about showing up when you aren't. It's brushing your teeth when you're tired, saying no when it's easier to say yes, turning off the screen when it's begging you for one more episode. It's honoring what needs to be done because the future version of you deserves peace, not chaos. The Stoics practiced this kind of discipline, not punishment, protection. Seneca didn't meditate on perfection. He reflected on misuse. He warned us not that life is short, but that we waste much of it. Imagine how many hours you've already surrendered to distractions. Now imagine reclaiming just one of those hours each day. That's not time management, that's soul retrieval. And let's talk about the victim mindset. Yes, people hurt you. Yes, life threw curveballs. But here's the deal. Those people aren't responsible for your next move. You are. If you keep waiting for them to apologize, to come back, to fix what they broke, you're giving them power over your future, not just your past. So ask yourself, where? Am I still waiting for someone else to do what only I can do? If the answer stings, you're finally getting warm. Because the moment you stop waiting is the moment you begin again. Not with some grand gesture, but with the decision to stand up, straighten your space, reframe your thoughts, and re-enter your life with the quiet confidence of someone who's done with excuses. Historians and Stoic intellectuals still argue whether Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations purely for himself or as a guide for others. But either way, the lesson is the same. The Emperor of Rome needed reminders. So do you. And that doesn't make you weak. It makes you awake. Tomorrow doesn't. Start clean unless you clean up today. So begin. Take one corner of your chaos, one thread of your life, and pull. You'll be amazed how quickly order returns when you stop waiting and start acting. You open your eyes and begin another day. But if someone followed you with a camera, no commentary, no captions, no explanation, just your raw routine, what would they see? Would your actions match your intentions? Would they reveal focus, discipline, a life led with clarity? Or would they find someone constantly catching up, multitasking with glazed eyes, giving their energy to everyone and everything except what truly matters? Your schedule, more than any journal entry or social media post, tells the truth about you. It's not what you say you value. It's what you prove you value, minute by minute, hour by hour. Every calendar block, every repetition, every rushed moment or sacred pause, it's all a confession. And whether you realize it or not, your time tells your story. Here's the hard truth. Most people live out of sync with their stated values. You say your health matters, but exercise gets skipped for the 5th time. You say your dream is a priority, but another week passes without a single focused hour. You crave peace, yet you fill your day with noise. It's not because you're weak. It's because you haven't decided to protect your time like it's sacred. But it is. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote fiercely about this. And on the shortness of life, he warns us. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. His words aren't about productivity. They're about intention. About realizing that each small distraction, each unchecked hour, each unnecessary yes is a withdrawal from an account that will eventually run dry. Historians still debate whether Seneca was too idealistic in his condemnation of luxury and societal expectations. But what they agree on is this. He understood time as the one asset you can never earn back. Every careless moment isn't just lost, it's spent, and you don't even remember on what. That's why your calendar matters. Not because it's efficient, but because it's revealing. So pause and ask, what have I been prioritizing by accident? What gets the best of my day and what gets only the leftovers? It's easy to feel attacked by your own schedule, but that's not shame, that's awakening. A mirror doesn't lie, it just reflects. And if you don't like the reflection, you're allowed to change it. Start with awareness. Track your time, not to judge, but to understand. Look at where your energy truly goes, not where you think it goes. What are the non-negotiables in your life right now? Sleep? Deep work? Time with loved ones? If it doesn't show up in your day, it's not real. It's just a wish. Next, define your values. Not your inherited ones, not society's, yours. What makes you feel most alive? What moments do you crave when life feels overwhelming? What kind of person are you trying to become? Now match your schedule to those values. Not someday. This week. Block your priorities first, not after emails, not around meetings. First, protect your time like a castle under siege. Morning rituals, afternoon deep focus, evening wind downs. These aren't luxuries, they're your lines of defense. Because if you don't build in what matters, everything else will bulldoze it. And let's talk about margins. Stop scheduling yourself like a robot. Life isn't a conveyor belt of 30-minute chunks. Build space. Space to breathe. Space to think. Space to fail gracefully and reset. When your day is stacked without margin, one surprise derails everything. When you leave room to breathe, one detour doesn't destroy your direction. The Stoics didn't use digital calendars, but Marcus Aurelius still planned with purpose. Each morning he reminded himself of what he could control, of what the day might bring, of how to face insult and chaos with poise. His mornings weren't about tasks, they were about alignment. And his evenings? Quiet reflection. What did I do well? Where did I fall short? Where can I return tomorrow? Your rituals can look different, but the principle holds. Structure isn't oppression, it's liberation. When you choose your time with care, you choose your identity with clarity. And the small details, they matter more than you think. Making your bed, choosing what to eat in advance, saying no, clearly and without guilt. Every yes without intention is a betrayal of your deeper self. And too many of those, you won't even recognize yourself anymore. So try this. For 1 week, let your schedule speak before you do. Look at what's on the calendar. No excuses. Does it reflect who you want to be, or who you've allowed yourself to become? Do your mornings set a tone of power or panic? Do your evenings calm you down or numb you out? And here's something important. This isn't about perfect systems. It's about sacred intention. You won't always get it right. That's okay. The point is to begin. Even a single hour reclaimed from mindless distraction is a declaration. I'm sculpting my life, one decision at a time. Historians and behavioral scientists alike argue over what matters most for lasting change: motivation, accountability, environment, identity. But beneath all of it lies a simple truth. What you do most, you become. And what you do daily, you never have to recover later. So ask yourself right now, if my schedule is a reflection of my soul, what is it saying? If it's whispering chaos, confusion, or avoidance, don't shame it. Redirect it. Choose again. Because your future is already waiting. It's just waiting to see if your calendar will finally make room. You wake up in a world that pulls at you from every angle. Messages, alerts, noise, demands. It begins before your feet even touch the floor. And if you're not anchored, you're gone. Drifting, reacting, rushing through a day that was never yours to begin with. But you don't need more motivation. You don't need louder alarms or stricter rules. What you need is rhythm, rituals that return you to yourself before the world tells you who to be. Picture this: a quiet morning, no screens, no chaos, just breath. Maybe a glass of water held with presence, a journal waiting to be filled, a soft playlist, or a few stretches on the floor. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe 50. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it's yours. Because rituals aren't just habits, they're anchors. And in a storm, an anchor doesn't fight the wind. It holds you steady. Your routine doesn't need to be rigid. It just needs to be reliable. Something to return to, especially when everything else feels like it's spinning out. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He didn't use habit trackers or motivational quotes, but every morning he armed himself with intention. Today you will meet ungrateful people, angry people, deceitful people, he wrote. Not as a warning, but as preparation, as protection. Because if you expect the storm, you brace for it. And every night he came back to himself, reviewing, reflecting, adjusting. That's a ritual. And historians still debate whether these meditations were private therapy or philosophical teaching. But one thing's clear. They were consistent. And consistency is how you build anything strong. You probably resist structure because you think it'll make you less free. But here's the paradox. The more ritual you have, the more freedom you feel. Because when your mind is clear, your day has direction. You're not wasting energy on 100 tiny choices. You already decided who you are. Without rituals, your first thoughts are borrowed. From social media, from the news, from someone else's emergency. Your mood is outsourced, your focus hijacked, and you move through the day reacting to everything but connected to nothing. But with ritual, you return to center. You begin the day from a place of stillness. And from that stillness, clarity rises. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need a 17-step morning routine or an aesthetic workspace. You just need you. Present, awake, intentional. Maybe your morning is a cup of tea on the balcony, or 10 deep breaths, or a cold shower that slaps you awake. Maybe it's journaling 3 things you want to embody, or reading 1 line of philosophy. Maybe it's just lighting a candle and listening to the silence. What matters is the return, the sacredness of doing this before the world gets you. Evening rituals matter just as much. In fact, they might matter more, because how you close the day shapes how you enter the next. Don't just fall into sleep. Release the day. Reflect gently. What worked? What slipped? Where did I honor myself? And where did I abandon myself? And don't use this as punishment. Use it as realignment. Historians studying ancient Stoicism still puzzle over how men like Epictetus, born a slave, or Marcus, born an emperor, arrived at similar inner peace. The answer lies not in their status, but in their structure. Each of them had rituals, mental, physical, emotional, that centered them in what they could control. That's the root of all Stoic wisdom. Focus only on what is yours to manage. And your daily rituals? That's yours. Always. So how do you start building them? Start embarrassingly small. 1 practice in the morning, 1 at night. That's it. Choose something that soothes you, something that sharpens you, something that reconnects you. Then repeat, even when you're tired, even when you're traveling, even when the day explodes. That's when you most need it. Because on good days, rituals enhance your clarity. On hard days, they rescue it. You won't always feel like it. But this isn't about feeling. It's about returning. It's about choosing your identity 1 tiny sacred act at a time. And yes, you'll forget. You'll fall out of rhythm. But when you remember, come back. Come back to breath, to stillness, to movement, to that version of you that's calm, clear, capable. That version is still in there, always. So ask yourself now, how do you begin and end your days? Are you rushing in and collapsing out? Or are you grounding, rising, and releasing? Because your routine doesn't have to impress anyone. It just has to hold you. And in a world designed to disorient you, even the simplest ritual becomes a rebellion. There's something unsettling about walking into a room and feeling the air itself is heavy. The dishes are still in the sink, laundries in a pile, papers spill across your desk, half-read books sit like unopened promises. Maybe you try to ignore it. Tell yourself it's fine, you'll deal with it later. But deep down, you feel it. The unease, the mental static. Like your brain has 1,000 open tabs. Your surroundings are speaking to your nervous system. Constantly. Whether you notice it or not. That cluttered space? It's not just physical, it's psychological. And the longer it piles up, the more your mind drowns in it. Outer disorder feeds inner disorder. You can't expect clarity in an environment built on chaos. Your brain is designed to scan your space for cues. Unfinished tasks, out-of-place objects, overstimulation. And every little thing you see sends a signal. There's more to do, more to fix, more to think about. Even if you look away, your body feels it. That's not weakness. That's biology. Historians still explore how ancient societies linked cleanliness with virtue, not just practically but spiritually. And while the Stoics never wrote about tidying up your sock drawer, they understood the power of simplicity. Of less noise, less distraction, less excess. Seneca, for example, warned against luxury. Not because things were inherently bad, but because the more we collect, the more we become owned by our possessions. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And often that craving hides in clutter, in things you no longer need, but haven't released. Why? Because clutter is comfortable. It's familiar. That shirt you haven't worn in 3 years, that drawer full of wires for gadgets you no longer use, the dusty treadmill turned clothes hanger, they all whisper something, and you hear it. Even if just subconsciously. Sometimes clutter is about control. You don't know how to fix your life, but you can hold on to stuff. Sometimes it's about identity. You bought those books when you wanted to change your life. You didn't read them, but they sit there reminding you of who you meant to become. Sometimes it's grief. Letting go of an object feels like letting go of a version of yourself, a phase, a dream. But here's the deeper truth. You cannot invite clarity while clinging to what no longer serves you. Decluttering is not just cleaning. It's reclaiming. It's a decision to make your space a place of calm, not chaos. A place that supports who you are becoming, not who you were. So where do you start? Start embarrassingly small. One drawer, one shelf, one corner. The goal isn't perfection, it's presence. Touch each item and ask, does this support the life I say I want? If the answer is no, thank it for what it gave you. Then let it go. Guilt-free. It may seem trivial, but the energy you free up is real. You'll feel it. A sense of lightness, of return, of motivation you didn't know was missing. The Stoics were clear about this. Simplicity breeds freedom. They didn't chase minimalism for style points. They knew that excess pulls you away from what matters. Every possession is a responsibility. Every item, a demand. And when you're drowning in demands, even silent ones, your mind becomes too exhausted to focus. Historians still debate whether Roman Stoics like Epictetus lived ascetic lives by choice or necessity. But what's agreed on is this: their environments were purposeful, not empty, not barren, intentional. That's the goal, not bare walls, bare distractions. So build your space with clarity in mind, and make it a rhythm, not a one-time purge. Life is always shifting. You grow, your needs evolve. Your space should reflect that. Set a ritual. Maybe every Sunday afternoon, you reset your space. Not to punish yourself, not to obsess, but to realign. Put on music, light a candle, Open a window. Make it sacred. Make it yours. And while you're doing it, ask the deeper question, what part of me am I finally ready to release? Because often the clutter is just the surface. Beneath it is fear, avoidance, old identity. And when you clean the space, you create room, not just in your home, but in your mind. You'll notice the difference. Suddenly, focus returns. You sit at your desk and feel grounded. You wake up in a room that makes you breathe easier. You begin to associate your space with clarity, not chaos. Because your mind and your environment are not separate systems. They're in constant conversation. And when one is overwhelmed, the other follows. So tonight, before you sleep, glance around your room. Ask yourself, what in here no longer reflects me? What's stealing from my peace without permission? Then tomorrow, pick one thing to let go of. One pile, one drawer, one reminder of who you no longer are. And when you do, feel that small whisper of relief, that shift, that return. Because clarity isn't found in a perfect space. It's found in a cared for one. The day begins before you know it. One blink, one notification, one question you didn't expect, and you're already behind. You tell yourself you'll get to the important stuff later, after you respond, after you fix, after you scroll, but then later becomes evening and your energy is gone. You never got around to what mattered. Again, you didn't plan your day, so it was planned for you. If you don't decide where your attention goes, the world will. The urgent will devour the important, and you won't even notice it until you realize you're living a life of reactions, not results. The silent cost of a day without intention. It isn't just lost productivity, it's lost identity. When you don't choose your focus, you don't choose your growth. And without growth, you feel stuck. Not because you're lazy, but because your direction has been hijacked by 1,000 tiny urgencies. Marcus Aurelius understood this long before modern scheduling tools existed. In Meditations, he reminded himself each morning to prepare not only spiritually but tactically. Expect hardship, he wrote. Decide in advance what matters. That wasn't pessimism, it was structure. And structure is how you keep meaning alive when the day tries to steal it. Historians argue over whether Marcus's daily planning habits were personal therapy or philosophical practice, but they agree on this. He lived with intention. He didn't rule by accident. He ruled by design. And that's the difference between drifting and leading your life. Many people resist planning because they confuse structure with pressure. They think if they make a plan, they have to follow it perfectly. That if they fail, they're weak. But planning isn't about perfection, it's about clarity. It's not a rigid rule book, it's a compass, a guide, a whisper that says, this is who you wanted to be today. Let's return. When you skip that compass, the day pulls you everywhere. A message here, a task there, a random obligation you didn't see coming. Suddenly, the most sacred parts of your life, your dream, your rest, your health, get squeezed into whatever minutes are left over, if any. This isn't just stressful, it's tragic, because you don't get this day again. And no, planning doesn't mean micromanaging every minute. It means claiming the moments that matter. It means deciding what your non-negotiables are and protecting them like you'd protect your peace, because they are your peace. Start each day with 5 quiet minutes. Ask, what matters most today? What would make this day meaningful, not just full? Not just what you have to do, who do you want to be? Write it down. Block time for it. Even if it's only 30 minutes. Even if it's just a small effort toward your bigger vision. That small act, It's a boundary against the world's noise. Without that block, your energy is up for grabs, and trust me, something will grab it. The Stoics knew this. Their version of planning wasn't about productivity hacks. It was about staying grounded in a world of storms, about remembering what was theirs to control and designing their lives around it. Modern thinkers still debate what creates better days: habit stacking, bullet journals, dopamine cycles. But beneath all that noise lies something simple: attention is life. And whatever you give your attention to, you give your soul to. So what does it mean to plan well? It means you set intentions before distractions arrive. It means you choose your values and then choose time slots that reflect them. It means you rest on purpose, not as an afterthought. And most of all, it means you say no, not out of guilt, but out of alignment. Because if you say yes to everything, you've already said no to the one thing that could have moved your life forward. You weren't born to chase every urgency. You were meant to create something enduring. And that takes deliberate time. It takes sacred time. Time that no one else is allowed to touch. So try this. Tonight, before bed, plan one thing for tomorrow that matters. Just one. Decide when you'll do it. Protect that time like it's a meeting with your future self, because it is. Then build from there. You don't need to change your whole life. You just need to reclaim 1 hour at a time. Because one reclaimed hour leads to one reclaimed day. One reclaimed day leads to a different direction. And direction, not speed, is what changes lives. And on the days you fall off plan, don't shame yourself. Just return. The plan is not the prison. It's the pathway. So ask yourself now, do I know what matters tomorrow? Or am I waiting for the day to tell me? Because if you're not leading your time, you're being led by randomness. And randomness has no interest in your peace. You were meant to move with intention, one clear moment at a time. You are not just what you eat. You are what you consume with your eyes, your ears, your heart. Every headline, every scroll, every song lyric, every conversation, every comment section, it's all feeding you. And most of it, it's not nourishment, it's noise. We've been taught to think of consumption in physical terms: calories, nutrition, diets. But the Stoics understood something far deeper, that the content you allow into your mind slowly becomes the texture of your soul. You can try to think positive thoughts, to chase clarity, to find peace. But if your daily inputs are chaos, your mind will echo with it. Imagine waking up and immediately reaching for your phone. Within 30 seconds, you've read bad news, seen 3 bodies you're told to envy, and skimmed posts from people pretending to be fulfilled. You haven't even stood up yet, and already your nervous system is in fight or flight. That's not weakness, that's wiring. You feel anxious, but there's no fire. You feel behind, but you haven't even begun. And by the time you actually start your day, your mind is already overcrowded. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations put it simply: the things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. Historians still discuss whether this line was born of daily frustration or deep spiritual discipline, but either way, it reflects a universal truth. Your mind becomes what it regularly touches, and most of us let it touch far too much. You wouldn't let someone walk into your house and dump garbage on the floor, but every day many of us let that happen inside our minds, through doom scrolling, gossip, toxic conversations, empty content designed to numb but not nourish. And the most dangerous part, you often don't notice it until it's already shaped you, until your thoughts become shorter, your focus thinner, your inner peace harder to access. So the first act of self-protection in the modern world isn't just setting boundaries with people, it's setting boundaries with input. Start by cleaning your digital environment like you'd clean your bedroom. Unfollow accounts that provoke envy or outrage. Mute notifications that rob your mornings. Delete apps that are time traps in disguise. Your mind is not a trash can, it's a temple. Treat it that way, and once you clear the noise, replace it. Don't just consume less. Consume better. Read something nourishing. Listen to music that uplifts instead of overstimulates. Sit in silence. Walk outside and let nature do what it's done for millennia. Reset the human soul. This isn't about being a monk. It's about being a guardian of your energy, of your thoughts, of your focus. Because every piece of content you engage with is shaping you, your worldview, your habits, your reactions. And the effects are cumulative. What you consume daily becomes who you are monthly. And who you are monthly shapes your entire life. The Stoics didn't have to battle smartphones or binge culture, but they battled distraction of their own. Letters, gossip, spectacles, and they chose every day to turn inward instead, to ask, what is mine to think about? What is mine to focus on? Even today, scholars debate whether Epictetus's writings were intended as philosophy or psychological training. But either way, they function as both, because mastering the mind begins with managing what enters it, and not just media, people too. Ask yourself honestly, who in my life leaves me energized? Who leaves me drained? Some people speak clarity. Others speak confusion. Some encourage your growth. Others subtly resist it, mock it, dismiss it, distract from it. And just like with media, most of that energy isn't loud. It's quiet, subtle, and incredibly sticky. Emotional consumption matters because your nervous system listens, even when you pretend you're fine, even when you think you're above it, you're not. So build filters, protect your attention, choose who and what gets to influence your inner world. Make it a ritual. Each week, audit your input. What made me feel heavier? What made me feel clearer? Then adjust accordingly. And in the moments you feel overwhelmed, don't just ask what you need to do. Ask what you need to stop letting in. Because sometimes it's not your fault that you're tired or anxious. Sometimes it's just too much signal, too much stimulation, too much external energy with nowhere to land. And when you remove it, peace doesn't just arrive, it returns. So ask yourself tonight, what am I consuming that feeds my confusion, my insecurity, my self-doubt? And what would change in my life if I only let in what strengthened who I want to become? You are not just living your life. You are building your mind, one piece of input at a time. Protect it like it matters, because it does. You often think of order as personal, your habits, your routine, your space. But take a moment to look beyond your planner or your bedroom. Look at the people around you. Because the truth is, the people closest to you are shaping your clarity or scattering it, not by what they say, but by what they radiate. Every text, every conversation, every shared silence, these interactions leave invisible imprints on your nervous system. Their stress becomes your tension. Their drama hijacks your focus. Their chaos turns into your emotional fatigue. And most of the time, you don't even realize it until you're snapping, spiraling, or shutting down. It's subtle, but it's constant. Stoic thinkers like Epictetus were clear about this. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid by those who do not understand. He wasn't trying to be dramatic. He was being practical. because when you rise into order, you'll often need to step away from what's familiar. Historians still debate the extent of Stoic influence on early community life, whether their philosophy encouraged withdrawal or engagement. But what's agreed upon is this: the Stoics believed in deliberate association. You didn't need to isolate, but you did need to curate. So ask yourself, who texts me daily? Who do I call when I feel unsure? Who do I vent to? And what direction are those conversations moving me in? Because relationships don't just pass time. They shape it. They set your baseline for what's normal, what's acceptable, what's possible. If the people around you normalize emotional chaos, urgency, or avoidance, then disorder becomes the air you breathe. It's not about judgment. It's about atmosphere. And just like clutter in your room makes it harder to think, emotional clutter in your circle makes it harder to grow. It blurs your boundaries, it scrambles your rhythm, it fills your head with noise that drowns out your own voice. And sometimes the ones closest to you aren't malicious. They're just misaligned. Maybe they love you, but they're still stuck. Maybe they support you, but they resist change. Maybe they cheer you on, but quietly hope you don't move too far ahead. That misalignment can feel like guilt, like you're betraying someone by becoming someone else. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone your stagnation, and not everyone who has access to you should have influence over you. One of the greatest acts of self-organization is redefining proximity. Not cutting people off, but adjusting access, recalibrating emotional investment, being honest about who energizes you and who drains you, consistently. So reflect, who respects your boundaries, and who consistently tests them? Who celebrates your discipline, and who dismisses it? Who listens deeply, and who interrupts with their own chaos? These questions aren't small. They shape the psychological environment where your daily habits live. They influence whether your routines stick, whether your energy replenishes, whether your order holds. And yes, there will be resistance. The more intentional you become, the more your clarity will unsettle people who prefer confusion. The more boundaries you set, the more those who benefited from your openness will protest. That's okay. You're not abandoning anyone. You're choosing stability. Just like you clean your home, you get to clean your circle. Not harshly, not emotionally, but deliberately. Pull back where needed. Communicate clearly, if possible. Choose who you bring closer. And remember, relationships don't have to be loud to be disruptive. Quiet resentment, subtle judgment, chronic distraction. These things leak your energy day after day. The Stoics practiced something we often forget: mutual elevation. They believed in surrounding themselves with those who challenged them to live well, not just live comfortably. Because growth thrives in clarity, and clarity thrives in good company. Be that company. Speak calm. Respect space. Support goals without taking them over. Don't be another source of noise in someone else's life. Be the person others feel more centered around. And when someone isn't capable of that, it's not cruelty to create space. It's wisdom. You're building something precious. Your peace, your purpose, your personal order. That structure needs protection. And part of that protection is choosing your emotional landscape with as much care as you choose your physical one. So tonight, ask yourself, who brings me home to myself, and who pulls me away? Who holds space for my growth, and who clutters it with their fear? And how can I lovingly adjust the access I give so my life reflects not just who I've been, but who I'm becoming? Because you are not an island, but you are a gatekeeper. And the peace you're building depends on who you allow through that gate. You can have the clearest mind, the best plans, a schedule carved out with monk-like precision. But if your body is falling apart, everything else eventually will too. You live in your body. It's your first system of order, your physical foundation, the quiet engine beneath every routine, every ambition, every moment of clarity. And yet for most people, it's the first thing they neglect. They tell themselves they'll rest later, eat better next month, move more once things settle down. But the truth is, things don't settle down. Life keeps demanding. And a neglected body becomes a silent saboteur, robbing you of focus, patience, energy, emotional stability, everything you need to build and sustain order. The Stoics didn't worship the body, but they respected it. Epictetus taught, "Take care of your body, but don't make it your master." He understood that discipline starts with physical awareness, that clarity isn't just a mental game, it's a physiological one. Historians often explore the Stoics' balance between bodily discipline and emotional detachment. Were they too cold, too minimal? Perhaps. But what remains clear is their reverence for balance. The body was to be maintained, not idolized, not abused, not ignored. Think about how much harder everything becomes when you're tired, not just sleepy, wired and exhausted, a tension that never leaves your jaw or your chest. How your decision-making falters, how your motivation drops, how your fuse shortens. That's not lack of willpower, that's your biology asking for help, and still, you push through. You chug caffeine to mask fatigue. You skip meals or binge to soothe stress. You sit for hours aching but immobile. Then you beat yourself up for not being more productive, without realizing that productivity begins inside your cells. Your body is not a container you drag through life. It's your ally, or your anchor. So how do you honor it? Start with sleep. Not just more of it, better. Darker room, no screens, a wind-down ritual. Protecting your nighttime like it's sacred because it is. That hour before bed, it decides how the next 10 hours go. Move daily. Not for abs, for alignment, for reconnection, for flushing the static out of your muscles, for reminding your nervous system that you're safe. Eat with presence. Hydrate like your focus depends on it, because it does. And not just when you remember. Make it part of the rhythm. Build rituals around nourishment like you would around anything else sacred. And most of all, listen. That headache, that stomach tension, that brain fog, that's your body talking. Not to be ignored, not to be medicated away, but heard, because your body doesn't lie. It will whisper until it has to scream. Too many people wait until collapse, until burnout, until illness. But order doesn't mean waiting for the crash. It means listening to the early signs and responding with care, not control. The Stoics understood impermanence, that the body would one day fail, but that didn't mean neglect it in the meantime. On the contrary, use it well, support it, honor it, be a steward of its strength. And here's the thing. Caring for your body doesn't have to be all-consuming. It can start with micro-adjustments. 1 glass of water first thing in the morning. A short stretch before you open your inbox. A moment of deep breathing between tasks. A walk instead of a scroll. These tiny acts, they signal respect. They tell your nervous system, I'm paying attention, I care. And in return, your body gives back energy, patience, focus. Because the more you support your system, the more it supports your structure. When your body feels safe, your mind opens. When it's cared for, your creativity flows. When it's nourished, your routines stick, not through force but through flow. And no, this isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming present. You don't have to do everything. You just have to stop treating your body like it's optional. Because every goal you have, every dream, every plan, every act of inner discipline rides on the back of your physical well-being. So tonight, check in. Not with your to-do list. With your body. Where does it hurt? Where is it tired? What would feel supportive right now? More rest? More movement? More stillness? Don't override the answers. Let them shape tomorrow, because organizing your life starts not with your planner, but with your pulse. And when you build order here, in this body, in this vessel, you build it everywhere else too. You can journal every morning, meditate, keep your space spotless, drink water, stretch, sleep 8 hours. But if your finances are in chaos, peace will always feel just out of reach. There's a quiet weight that financial disorder brings. It's not always loud. Sometimes it doesn't even show up in your account balances. It shows up in your anxiety, in the background tension you can't name, in the way you wake at 3 a.m., wondering if you missed something, in the sense that no matter how hard you try to focus, something is off. Because money, whether we like it or not, touches everything. The Stoics didn't chase wealth, but they didn't reject it either. Seneca, born into affluence, wrote that, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions but in having few wants." His wisdom wasn't anti-money, it was pro-clarity, pro-order, pro-self-control. Historians still wrestle with the contradiction of Seneca's words and his wealth. Was he a hypocrite or a master of detachment? But one thing remains consistent. He never mistook having money for being free. Because money without structure is just another source of chaos, and chaos costs more than cash. Unpaid bills, untracked spending, no savings, rising debt. These things don't just stress you out, they shape you. They change how you breathe, how you think, how you show up for others. They shift your priorities, shrink your confidence, and limit your decisions. Not because you're irresponsible. Often it's because you're avoiding. And avoidance is expensive. When you ignore your financial life, it doesn't disappear. It just moves in quietly, into your thoughts, into your relationships, into your sleep. And the longer you pretend not to see it, the louder it whispers. So what does it look like to create financial order? Not perfection, order. It starts with courage. Open the accounts, look at the numbers, write it all down. Not with shame, but with honesty. Not to punish yourself, but to empower yourself, because clarity is always the beginning of peace. Then simplify. You don't need 10 budgeting apps or a masterclass on crypto. You need visibility, you need decisions, you need rhythm, a weekly money date, a spreadsheet that actually gets opened, a system that honors your energy, not one that overwhelms it. Set limits, not as punishment but as protection. Build buffers, not to hoard but to breathe. Automate what you can. Track what matters. Let your money become a reflection of your values, not your fear, not your numbness, not your status-seeking shadow. And most importantly, detach your worth from your wallet. Financial chaos often breeds shame, but shame doesn't solve anything. It paralyzes. It convinces you that you're just bad with money, that you'll never catch up, that you're already too far behind. But you're not. Habits can be changed. Structure can be built. Even if you're starting from zero, even if it's just $5 into savings each week, even if you've made mistakes, especially if you've made mistakes. Because organizing your money isn't about being rich. It's about being ready. Ready to breathe. Ready to face life without that quiet undertow of fear. Ready to stop making decisions from a place of panic. And when your finances are in order, even just a little, your mind unlocks again. Ideas return. Gratitude flows more freely. Your nervous system stops bracing for impact. You start feeling like you have room. And room is everything. So reflect now. Where am I avoiding my financial reality? What part of my money story still runs on fear, not strategy? And what small, repeatable system could I build, not next year but this week, that would protect my peace? Because financial order isn't about the size of your income. It's about the structure that supports it, the clarity that guides it, the decisions you make in private that build freedom in public. And peace of mind, real enduring peace, begins when you stop running from the numbers and start shaping them with intention. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stop pretending it doesn't matter, because it does. And if you want to organize your life, you have to include the part that touches every part of it. You reach for your phone before you even take your first conscious breath of the day. Notifications light up the screen, emails, messages, headlines. You tap, scroll, swipe, absorb. 10 minutes pass, then 20. Suddenly, you're not starting your day. You're reacting to someone else's. And that's how you lose yourself, before your feet even touch the ground. Technology is powerful. It connects, informs, simplifies. But if used without intention, it also fragments. It distracts. It conditions your brain to expect stimulation, to crave validation, to avoid stillness. And in doing so, it subtly rewires how you think, how you relate, how you exist. You tell yourself, it's just a tool. But tools don't build structure on their own. They either serve your purpose or sabotage it. The Stoics, of course, never wrestled with screen time or notification overload, but their teachings apply more than ever. Epictetus said, "If a thing is in your power and it does not corrupt your integrity, use it with reason. If it is not in your power, do not let it rule you." And your phone, your apps, your endless tabs, they're powerful, but they are not in charge unless you let them be. Modern philosophers and behavioral scientists debate whether our devices are extensions of our will, or are reshaping that will entirely. But one truth is clear: your attention is being harvested. Your focus is under siege, and unless you fight for it, you lose it. So what does it mean to use technology with intention, not impulse? It starts with presence. Pause before you reach. Don't let the glow of the screen be the first and last light you see each day. Begin your mornings with yourself, your breath, your body, your thoughts. Start the day as yours, not the world's. Then audit your digital habits. Ask, which apps drain me? Which ones align with my values? Which ones just fill empty space? If something makes you feel worse after using it, limit it, delete it, mute it. You don't owe your attention to everything that demands it, because attention is life. And you are not here to live your life in 1,000 distracted pieces. Create rituals around your usage. Set check-in times. Use Do Not Disturb during deep work or quiet hours. Turn off non-essential notifications. Choose windows of connection, not a 24/7 open-door policy for distraction. And then, the hardest part, allow yourself to be bored. Be still. Be quiet. Let your mind wander. Let yourself feel the itch to check something and not scratch it. Because that space, That stillness? That's where clarity lives. That's where you remember who you are without the echo chamber of everyone else's life. Historians may someday define our era not by war or politics, but by the war for our attention. A silent conflict fought in microseconds. And right now, your daily discipline is your shield. The Stoics spoke of virtue, clarity, calm. These aren't just internal states, they're choices, made moment by moment, click by click. And the modern version of Stoic strength? It might just be logging off when the world expects you to stay plugged in. So what does it look like practically? Maybe it's no screens for the first hour of your day. Maybe it's uninstalling social media for the weekend. Maybe it's a single app that blocks the ones that hijack your focus. Or maybe it's simpler still, asking yourself, am I using this tool, or is it using me? Technology isn't evil, but it's not neutral either. It's built to pull you in, to keep you engaged, to nudge your attention toward chaos. And unless you've created boundaries, routines, rituals, it wins. So reclaim your time, reclaim your mornings, your creative energy, your nights, your sacred attention. Because when you do, something beautiful happens. Your thoughts slow down, your focus returns, your sense of self grows stronger, and you start to remember, you are not the noise. You are not the scroll. You are not the urgency of a digital world that never sleeps. You are a builder of clarity, a steward of order, a protector of peace. And technology? It should support that, not steal it. So tonight ask yourself, how does my digital life serve my real life? Where is it helping me build? And where is it quietly unraveling me? Because your phone can be a compass or a cage, a light or a leash. The difference is not in the device, it's in your discipline. And order, real, lasting order, only survives when you protect what matters from what's merely available. Some days you do everything right. You rise with intention, follow your routines, honor your schedule. You eat well, focus deeply, protect your boundaries, and it feels good, solid, grounded, like you're finally becoming who you were meant to be. But then comes that day. You oversleep. You skip the morning ritual. You grab the junk food, forget your calendar, say yes to something you should have declined, scroll endlessly, abandon your clarity. By evening, you're off track, frustrated, disappointed, wondering if you've undone everything. But here's what you need to remember. That day isn't failure, it's just life. Order is not perfection. It's persistence. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, in one of his most raw entries, wrote to himself, "You lost it, but what's left of your life? Live it as nature requires." He didn't pretend he never slipped. He just returned. Historians and scholars often discuss this recurring theme in meditations. Marcus constantly calling himself back to the path, back to virtue, back to reason. Not with self-punishment, with compassion, with commitment, with humility. Because true discipline isn't about never falling, it's about how fast you come back. Yet we so often confuse routine with rigidity. We think that one skipped workout, one off day, one bad week means we've lost the plot, that we're back to square one. You're not. Slipping is part of the process. Life is unpredictable. Routines will break, plans will collapse, emotions will rise. And when they do, your power lies not in controlling everything, but in returning to what grounds you. This is why persistence is the real strength. Because perfection? It's brittle. One crack, and it shatters. But persistence? It bends. It learns. It lasts. So redefine success. It's not executing your entire plan flawlessly every day. It's showing up anyway. It's keeping the door open. Even if all you can manage is 5 minutes of focus, one breath of awareness, one meal eaten with intention, that's not a small win. That's a foundational win, because it keeps the system alive. Track the return. Not just the routine. Start paying attention to how many times you come back, not how many days you fall off. The more you return, the stronger your structure becomes. Not because it's unbroken, but because it knows how to repair itself. Your nervous system learns, even when things go sideways, we know how to come home. That's power. Setbacks become feedback. Stumbles become teachers. And suddenly you're not starting over every time you slip. You're continuing with wisdom. The Stoics didn't demand flawlessness. They demanded honesty, accountability, self-mastery. But they knew that self-mastery wasn't a single act, it was a rhythm, a quiet commitment, a gentle, firm return. So when you lose your footing, don't catastrophize it. Don't dramatize the restart. You don't need a Monday, or a new month, or some grand clean slate ritual. Just begin again. Mid-mistake, mid-scroll, mid-regret, quietly, immediately. That's the art of persistence, and speak kindly to yourself while you do. Because the voice you use when you feel off track, that voice builds or breaks you. If it's shaming, harsh, impatient, you'll resist the return. But if it's steady, respectful, gentle, you'll crave it. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are becoming. You are building. You are remembering. Order isn't a state. It's a skill. And like any skill, it strengthens with reps. So tonight, reflect. Where have I mistaken a stumble for a collapse? Where have I quit too early just because I slipped? And what would persistence look like for me tomorrow? Not in performance, but in quiet, steady return. Because that's how you build a life that holds, not through perfect days, but through the practice of coming back over and over and over again. There's a fire in you, a purpose, a sense, faint or fierce, that your life means something beyond just passing time, that you're here not just to exist, but to build something, a business, a book, a legacy, a movement, a family, a future, something only you can shape. But here's the hard truth. Purpose without structure will collapse. You can feel called. You can feel inspired. You can have visions so vivid they keep you awake at night. But without systems to support them, they will erode. Passion burns bright. But without order, it burns out. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still made time to write, reflect, return. Epictetus, once a slave, didn't just speak of freedom. He structured his days to teach, to write, to train others in thought. Their purpose survived because they gave it shape. Historians still debate how much of Marcus's discipline came from personal habit versus imperial necessity. But the results speak louder than speculation. He didn't just think deeply, he lived it daily. So if your purpose matters to you, it needs a container, a system, a structure, a plan. Not to strangle the creativity, but to protect it. Because life will always get noisy. Distractions will multiply. Doubt will rise. And without structure, your purpose becomes another dream filed under someday. And someday, it never arrives. You either build your life to support what matters, or your life buries it. So ask yourself, does my schedule serve my purpose or sabotage it? Look closely. You say you want to write, but does your calendar reflect time for writing? You say your health is sacred, but is it built into your daily rhythm? You say you want to build something big, but are you leaving space, energy, and Attention for it every day, not just when life slows down. Purpose isn't fragile because it's unclear. It's fragile because it's often unsupported. You don't need 10 hours a day. You need uninterrupted hours. You need intentionally protected time. You need rhythms that hold when motivation doesn't. Because motivation is fleeting. Systems endure. This is where many people lose their way. They think because they feel deeply, the structure will come easily. But structure isn't a feeling. It's a choice made again and again when it would be easier to do nothing. So build containers. Time blocks, rituals, physical spaces, routines that say, this hour belongs to what matters. Create barriers to protect your focus. Prepare the night before. Know what tools you'll need. Limit the decisions required to begin. Because friction is the enemy of flow. And when you eliminate friction, momentum grows. You begin to trust your days. Your energy stops leaking into chaos. You no longer wake up wondering what to do. You already know, because you designed for it. And when doubt creeps in, as it always will, your system carries you. You don't feel inspired, but you still show up. You don't want to, but your ritual pulls you in. That's the power of structure. It moves even when your heart hesitates. And in those quiet, consistent moments, you build something unshakable. So reflect. Now, have I built my life to support my purpose, or am I asking my purpose to survive my disorganized life? Where does my time, my energy, my attention leak? And how can I seal those leaks with structure? What would it look like to treat my calling as sacred, not just in thought, but in design? Because your purpose is more than a spark. It's a responsibility. It needs a rhythm, a space, a system strong enough to hold it when everything else feels uncertain. Order is not about being robotic. It's about being ready. Ready to rise, ready to move, ready to serve even when life gets loud. And the good news? You don't have to build it all today. Start with one habit, 1 hour, one protected block of time where the world can't touch your dream. Then repeat, and repeat again. Because over time, structure becomes strength, and strength becomes identity, and identity becomes a life aligned with what matters most. You are not just a dreamer. You are a builder. So here you are. You've made it through the noise, through the resistance, through the flickers of guilt and flashes of realization. You've walked slowly and deliberately through each system, each layer of structure, and now you can feel it. Not as pressure, not as perfection, but as presence. Inhale slowly. Feel how much lighter it is when your time has intention. When your body is cared for. When your space is calm. When your money isn't whispering stress at midnight. When your technology is quiet and your circle is aligned. When your mind no longer lives in a constant state of reaction. This is order. Not a rigid prison, but a soft frame. Something steady. Something sacred. Something you return to, again and again. No matter how often you drift. It won't always be clean. There will be days when you forget, when you fall behind, when the world creeps in with its demands and pulls you off center. That's okay. That's expected. But now, you know how to return. You know how to quiet the noise, to put the phone down, to clean the corner, to move your body, to say no, to realign, to begin again, gently. Because order isn't something you have or don't. It's something you practice, like breathing. Tonight, let that truth hold you. Let it wrap around you like a blanket. You're not broken. You're not too late. You're not a mess. You're a system in progress, a soul choosing clarity, a mind learning to lead itself, not follow the world. So breathe deep. Dim the lights. Let the hum of the fan lull your thoughts into stillness. Let this final moment be yours alone. No to-do lists, no pressure, just rest because you've earned it. Tomorrow, you'll return again. Not perfectly, but fully. Sweet dreams.